a big fat punch in the gut. So
Sucks.
yeah, sucks, dude. Sucks. All right. But we're not here to talk about whitetails. We're here to talk about elk and some of the experiences you've had over the last couple of years. But before we get into that, I just want to do some housekeeping here and let everybody know that the Western Rookie podcast is now on YouTube, right? So if you want to watch the actual footage of this conversation, clips and, shorts and all that stuff, please go to the Western Rookie podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to that. I would really appreciate it. Also, go to iTunes or Spotify, wherever you download this podcast, give it a 5-star review. And that helps this podcast generate more and more awareness, I guess. So please do that. All right. Elk hunting. Has this always been kind of like a dream of yours, or has it been like just something recent that's kind of you've been intrigued about?
I mean, honestly, it's been a bucket list hunt, but the logistics, I'd never, it was just too far away, far
Mm.
fetched. I've never hunted out of state actually. So my high school buddy, I grew up with him went to school with him from kindergarten all the way through high school, and we've hunted together, fished together all throughout that time during high school. And he moved out to Idaho, has been there for the last 10, 11 years, and he's been, hey man, let's go elk hunting. Hey man, let's go elk hunting. And I think about 5 years ago is when it really kind of took off. Like we started planning. So it took a long time to get it planned. Originally, it was supposed to be my family going out there with me and I'm hunting, but it didn't quite work out. So it kind of fell into place. 2023 ended up going into 24. So I had kind of a year and a half to kind of knew it was going to happen and get
Mhm.
ready for it.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, so when it was time to start, so this was Idaho, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So when it was time, like what's that conversation with your buddy look like? Was he the one that kind of instigated it and was like, dude, you need to get out here? Or did you
Yeah.
call him up and you were like, dude, can I come out there? How'd that work?
No, he was totally like, he'd send me clips of, he was always a meat hunter, shooting
Mhm.
cows in his area, short range weapon. Like he would pretty much learn how to hunt out west, slowly doing it on his own. He would use in the area short range weapon. So he would hunt with an 870 pump, 12 gauge, bead only, slugs, and be killing cows, sneaking up 30, 50 yards. And he got like 3 or 4 under his belt, and he would just send me stories about it, and I would get hooked. So,
Yeah.
um, are you still on?
Yeah.
So,
He was there, right? He was
yeah,
like,
so
dude,
he was
I gotta
there.
go.
He would send me stories, and he's like, "Dude, we got to line something up." So he was egging me on, to get something on the books.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So Idaho used to be almost like open policy back in the
Correct.
day. The first year I hunted Idaho, I was just like, um, I drove there with no tag or no license, and I bought it at a
Wow.
gas station right before we headed up into the mountains.
No
Right, the
way.
morning. Yep, the morning we drove all through the night. That morning, I stopped at a gas station, bought my elk tag, and then ended up driving right up into the mountains and starting to hunt. So,
That's
um,
incredible.
that's not what it's like now. What's it like to get a tag these days?
So in 2024, it was still technically over the counter. But, as many as you know, it just changed for 2026. It's now a draw, just a clean
Okay,
draw, no preference points, no bonus points, just luck of the draw, lottery. You have five
okay,
choices. So unfortunately, due to the wife and finances, just not right time. I'm not going to go elk hunting for 2026. But backing up to 2024, it was over the counter, so you can get it in person, over the phone in a waiting room. So over the phone calling and then in an online waiting room. So those are
mm-hmm.
the three ways a non-resident could get tags. And it's not really a secret, but it was kind of a best known option. So a lot of people that were local to, non-residents, if they're surrounding the area, Oregon, Washington, they would drive into Idaho and camp out. That's how I found out how tough it was to get a tag. People were camped out for almost a week to get these over the counter non-resident tags. So in person is obviously the best way. If you're from several states away, it's not as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But the best known secret that kind of made it unfair for a lot of non-residents, which I understand why it switched because it makes it fair, is a resident can purchase a license
Yes.
for a
For a non,
non-resident. So
right.
that's why I was able to get my in. And I'll answer some questions about that because it was actually I didn't get the tag on the actual draw, and my buddy didn't know he was allowed to do that. So that was a whole learning experience. I ended up getting my tag on a resale back in June. So it opened up in December. The sale opened up in 2023 December. I was in a waiting room at like 30,000 people, and then it turned to 40, and then it turned to 45,000. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to get tagged. So I ended up getting a mule deer tag in the zone I was going to hunt in. And then we found out, hey, you can buy it in person. People resell their tags back once they figured out, hey, I don't want to go to this state, I actually got a better state.
Mhm.
So Idaho will release, I think, 4 or 5 resale tag dates. So when people sell their tag back to the state, you get a certain percentage of money back, depending on when you resell it. And then those tags in each zone become available for the same type of in person, over the phone, or online waiting room. So I was able to get my buddy to grab me a tag in June on the second date.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty, seems complicated. I
Yeah.
know that there was a lot of loopholes there and people were just finding anybody in the state, Venmoing the money and just been like, go buy me a tag and I'll pay you $50 to go do it or something like that. Right. And so there was a big loophole. It sounds like it's closed.
Yep.
It's closed now.
No more.
You know,
Which makes it fair because thinking about it, like I could have gone elk hunting every year if I wanted to,
yeah,
with the old system, which it makes it fair. Obviously, it sucks for
yeah.
me personally, but makes it fair for everyone else.
Yeah, and that's what you want is fairness. What about because I thought I heard that those non-resident tags sold out extremely
Oh,
fast
minutes,
like that,
minutes,
right?
minutes,
Minutes.
minutes.
And
Yeah.
so that's where the new that's where the resale comes back into play. They resale it and then or resell it or sell it back to the state, and
Yeah.
then they go back up on for sale again. Is that on a first come first served basis as well,
Yep.
or
So
get
I'll
in
tell you
line
how it
on a
works.
specific date?
Yeah. So every resale date is public information. But they will post how many tags are resold in each zone.
Mm,
So in the zone I wanted to hunt in, 3 tags got resold in March. So my buddy got up 4 hours before the date to go in to sell. He sat outside a mom and pop store. There were already 3 people in front of him, unfortunately. And of course, you're thinking about 3 tags in the zone with every store in Idaho,
mhm.
every person online and calling on the phone. So we struck out, but then he went in earlier in June is when we were able to get again, another 3 tags were resold in the zone I
Gotcha,
wanted to go in. So that's how he was able to get in earlier and snag me a tag. It was a rifle
gotcha.
B tag, by the way.
Okay, all right. So your first trip out there was a rifle tag.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, all right.
This past season was bow.
Was bow. Okay.
Mm.
All right. So the first year going out there after like going through the rigmarole of trying to get a tag, um, and I'm guessing that you were going to rely heavily on your buddy for locations and getting you out there
Yep.
and
Yep.
almost like a guide in a specific.
Pretty much my personal guide. All success was on him.
Yep.
Um, I had never been out west before. When you're elk hunting, terrain could be flat, in some states, but Idaho is certain parts of Idaho, and this area I was in is jungle, steep,
Yeah.
nasty. Um, I'll let you talk from there because fitness played a big role into success in that area.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so what does the logistics look like when you get the tag in June?
Mhm.
Because at that point you didn't know if you were going to go out there or not,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Now, did you bought a mule deer tag, so you were going out for mule deer anyway?
Yeah, I was gonna. We had planned a trip for so long. It was like I'm gonna go out there anyway. So I
Okay,
sold my mule deer tag back once I got the elk tag, which I got like 25% back because it was kind of too late at that point.
gotcha. Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Um, and so what was the planning and the preparation, knowing you were going to go out there? on a, because let's be honest, going and hunting in some public land in North Carolina or around the farms and or the properties that you have access to is a little bit different than the jungle that you were used
Correct.
to, not only from a fitness standpoint, from but from a gear standpoint as well. Walk
Yeah.
us through what the planning and preparation looked like for that first elk hunt.
So I knew it was gonna be we knew it was gonna be in October. So, Idaho can have, if you're bow hunting in Idaho, it could be 80 degrees and then 30, 40 degrees at night. And then as like I said, I was hunting in October. The highs were 50 to 60, lows 20s to 30s, snow mixed in, rain mixed in. So having the right gear, when you're DIY hunting, everything starts to add up. Like, yes, like hunting with a guide is so much easier, but doing it by yourself and the reward of, tagging out, which is, only typically 9 to 10% of hunters, elk hunters, are able to tag out. But the gear is expensive. Like, you got to think about
Mm-hmm.
what clothing you're bringing. I had to borrow a lot of stuff, and luckily, my buddy in Idaho had a lot of camping equipment. So he had the tent, he had the burner. So all I had to deal with was food, gear, and the hiking pack. And those hiking packs, like, you want a quality hiking pack when you're in, the backcountry and you're hiking 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 plus miles. A hiking pack that is $500, $600 is, it's an investment. So I
Yeah.
actually was able to borrow that too. But second year, I was able to kind of scoop up some gear, saving up. But I was lucky enough to have a buddy in the location we're hunting in, and he was close to our hunting area, so I was able to ship all my food. So I shipped a lot of my dry food. I shipped a lot of snacks and all that, all non-perishables, dry food to him, just to lighten up my suitcase because you're only depending on your flyer miles or what you have. I flew basic, so my flight was one way because I knew I was bringing something back, but I really didn't. So I flew one way in the hopes of shooting something and then driving it back,
Mm.
which was a whole experience when I tagged out. But so flight, logistics of him picking me up from the airport, the right gear, and food was well planned out after I found out I got that tag.
Yeah. Okay. So the gear, you needed investment, dude. I wish I would have put a little bit more time and effort into my first elk hunt in Idaho. Uh, I've told this story on other podcasts, but my first year in Idaho, I was in good weightlifting shape,
Yeah,
but I was not in good like
mountain goat.
cli- yeah, I was not that. I was meathead coming from Iowa into elevation, just piece of shit, basically.
Yeah.
And so there was that aspect of it, but then I was hiking in the wrong boots. I had completely the wrong boots.
Yes. Yes.
And then on the first or second night, it rained, and I had a hole in my, or I borrowed a tent from a buddy, and
Mm.
it wasn't the best tent. He's a backpacker, and he's like, dude, take this, it's light, whatever. And he gave it to me, but I didn't really inspect it. He's like, everything's in there, but I didn't inspect it.
Yeah.
And so the first night or the second night we went elk hunting, I literally had an inch of water in the bottom of my tent because there was some kind of hole, or the
My lord.
waterproofing kind of ran out of it or
Yeah.
whatever, and it sucked. I had to drive into Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and bought
Wow.
a $700 tent. I I
It
didn't have
adds up.
$700, and I had to
Yeah.
put it on a credit card.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
dude, it was a nightmare of a hunt. Like, I was physically defeated at that point. So my question to you is, outside of the gear, what type of like fitness regimen did you kick in? Because I know you, right? You're going to do something for that.
Well,
What did you do?
like what you're saying. So if you don't have the correct gear, obviously every state's different.
Mhm.
Specifically, I'm just talking about Idaho. If you don't have the right gear, if you don't have the right boots, it's gonna ruin your experience and your hunt. It's gonna take you
Mhm.
out early. And we'll go through my experience. Like in my second year hunt was night and day difference. I didn't realize how steep the terrain was. I didn't realize how the weather could change. I thought I was fit. Um, didn't do enough. So I actually was, since I knew this trip was like a year and a half away. Like it was logistics was going to happen, even though I didn't have a tag in the hand. I was 239 pounds, and I'm 5'6", so I was, I'm short, so I was a little pudgy.
Yeah.
So I was able to, a year and a half, year and a half, gotten a gym membership, which I hate working out by myself.
Yeah.
Um, I played college soccer, so I was always used to suffering alongside other people. So that when I look over and I see somebody dying beside me, it just motivates me to keep pushing. So
Yeah.
I got into like a circuit training kind of workout program. So I lost, I think when I left for Idaho, it was 225 pounds, and I was 239 pounds a year and a half before that trip. So shedded some weight, and it still was not enough.
Hmm.
The first day we scouted, I cramped out. And my
Hmm.
buddy had this like it was like there was a lot of health complications that kind of threw like a wrench. Like um, I have a sickle cell trait, which makes me susceptible to cramp faster and
Hmm.
dehydrate faster. And when you're in higher altitudes, you actually those systems are exacerbated. Like I don't know
Oh boy.
if anyone's looked up Ryan Clark, look up his experience playing in first time in I believe Colorado in the NFL.
Hmm. In
So
Denver. Yep.
he had the sickle cell trait, and his spleen, I think, either ruptured or he almost died because of playing in high altitude. So every time they would go to Colorado, he couldn't play because of how his sickle cell trait acted up, and it can be different to everyone. But for me, I just growing up and knowing my history in soccer and not knowing until I had my firstborn kids that had sickle cell trait. So I cramped all throughout my high school career to soccer. All my brothers, my sisters, we all cramped terribly. We were fit. Like I would say, spring wise, we're all short, extremely fast. Long distance was our best, but cramping was um a big deal. So in
Hmm.
Idaho, that first day of scouting, I cramped out and I was like, I literally thought, crap, I'm not ready for this. So like my buddy
Yeah.
had to literally every 50 yards we were going up, he'd stop and look at me like, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Hmm.
So fitness, if you're not fit, I would say that's number one, depending on the area you're at. If you're not fit, it can really bust your hunt if you can, because elk are fast.
Oh, dude, they're fast when they walk.
Exactly.
It blows my mind how much ground
Mm,
they cover
it's insane.
in the shortest period of time. Like, I don't know, how long do you think it would take us to walk from just a normal walk from field goal to field goal on a football field? A minute if we
Yeah,
just walked it,
yeah.
right? Something like that, maybe a little more. These these elk are covering 100 yards in seconds.
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 And
It
it's absurd.
It's absurd. Yeah, exactly. And so then that for me was this harsh realization where we went in Idaho. We heard a bugle. Like it was a brutal hunt, but we heard a bugle and we're like, dude, it's on this slope. We're on this slope. Let's go get it. And so we went there and we couldn't see anything. We're like, where did these elk? And then we heard another bugle over
On the
the entire
opposites.
the opposite side. Like, and we're like, well, let's go. Right, let's go. So we go up to the top and then we're glassing once we get up to the top, and they're already down the back face and up the next face. And we're just like, dude, there's no
No
possible
way.
way we can keep up with them. Right?
Yeah.
We will just be walking until dark and then have to walk this entire way back. So we got to come up with a completely different angle on these animals or whatever. And so that was a gigantic learning curve when we were
Huge
out
learning
there.
curve.
Huge learning curve. And so, but it doesn't seem like all was lost in that, like
No.
despite the physical cramping, the gear that was new or borrowed or whatever, it still sounds like you were able to get in on some elk. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so got in Saturday. Opening day was, I believe, Monday. So we did some scouting. He had a mule deer tag. He was still trying to fill. So we did some bounce around, and then I believe Sunday evening is when we started to get everything ready, shooting the rifle. Again, I didn't travel with a rifle. I borrowed his brother's 300 mag. So that was another thing, having people in the location you're hunting in. So get to that rifle sighting, and then it comes to opening day. So Sunday we hike in. about 4.5 miles on the trailhead, and then we bombed down, hike like maybe half a mile down from the top of the trailhead, and we set camp Sunday night. And dude, I couldn't sleep. I could not sleep. I think I slept 2 hours that night. I'm not afraid to say I was a little bit worried about mountain lions, wolves, like every twig I heard, because it's something about if you've ever hunted out west, but like in North Carolina, when I'm hunting, there's noise, there's traffic, but
Hmm.
when you're out in wilderness, like I've been in the mountains, I've camped, but this it was just you're by yourself and you feel this small and you
Oh,
hear
dude, that's
everything.
my favorite. Oh my God.
Yeah,
I love feeling that small, but I'll elaborate on what you said. And I experienced this when I was in Colorado at about, somewhere between 10,000 and 11,000. I think the highest we got was 11,600 in a couple
yeah.
of those hunts. And the silence is
Yes.
deafening.
Yes.
It's deafening. There's no noise up there. You may hear an airplane from like fly over, but there's no like
Yeah.
in Iowa in the fall, you hear a lot of like grain silos running and you hear
Mhm.
tractors and traffic like even from gravel's roads. There's nothing up there.
Correct.
There's nothing. Maybe the occasional bird tweet, but that's it, man. And
Yeah.
so like it kind of blew my mind and then I
Yeah.
don't know about you, but once I got up there, it was hard for me to sleep at
Yes.
night
Yeah.
at that
I couldn't sleep.
elevation from the elevation.
Mm. Yeah.
So I was like having to take deeper breaths at night. Like I'd wake up and be like calm myself down, then fall back to sleep. And so I was not getting 8 hours of solid sleep a night.
Yeah. So Monday was opening day. I got 2 hours of sleep. Um, we went to bed at like 9 o'clock, and then I just could not sleep. I was waking up, and then I knew I would have issues with cramps, so I was drinking like a gallon of water. So I
Mhm.
peed like 10 times that night. So I'm in
Yep.
and out of my tent peeing, and then so 12 o'clock and then 2 o'clock and then 4 o'clock and then I think I woke up at 6 o'clock and I woke up my buddy's like, dude, we have another hour and a half to sleep.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I can't sleep. Let's go. Let's get ready. So we got up early and we just started bombing down the mountain to where he thought there would be elk. So again, I have no experience I don't know how to call. I bought some elk calls. I practiced like barely any, so I was not reliable to call. So he's just casting out cow calls and just waiting for a response. So, he's cow calling. We sit, we're moving on 100 yards, 20 yards, 20 yards, 20 yards. So we get about maybe a half a mile away from camp, and I hear the bugle, and it's just if you've never heard a bugle before, which
Hmm.
again, I'm from North Carolina, never. I've heard one before in Cherokee when they have 4 hours where they have elk, but just like hearing it in the wilderness and you're hunting, like it was like incredible, most incredible music to my ears. So
Yeah.
and how I explain when you hear a bugle, it could be really close or it could be far away because a lot of those canyons, ridges, the way sound can bounce off. So we made a game plan, and you know, being in typically flat land, I do have some ridges. Thermals was, I knew about thermals, but like in the mountains, that steepness, how the sun hits, those thermals are dropping. So you have to
Hmm.
be very aware where your thermals are dropping, and those elk, it's incredible how they move in such speed, but they also move based on when those thermals flip. They know
Hmm.
they are climbing up that mountain in the morning, and that those thermals are dropping, and they are moving at such pace in a sync of when that wind switches, when that sun hits, and that wind switches. They're exactly where they want to be. So when that wind is pushing up,
Yeah.
they're already, they're already aware of any predators because they were
Hmm.
below them, and then when they're where they want to be, that wind is they're gonna smell everything above them now.
Yeah.
So the hard part about elk hunting, and when I think of a mountain, I think of a mountain like this. When you're in North Carolina, you think of them, but
Yeah.
and a mountain has finger ridges. So let's say this elk was here,
Yeah.
we're here, and we're literally going over these finger ridges,
Hmm.
oh, up and down, and trying to cut the distance, and he's just bombing up, and you
Yeah.
hear him, down here, and you're trying to be even with him, and then 10 minutes later, he's like 500 yards above you. Like, how the hell did he get up there so fast?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I really got kind of down on myself on how like I was cramping trying to get to this elk, just trying to get to it within a couple hundred yards. Like I was cramping, so I was down on myself. We actually got really close. My buddy says we were within 150 yards, but this central Idaho area is like a jungle, so you have 50 yards of visibility, sometimes 20, 30, with
Yeah.
just the vegetation. So um, we could not get him to commit. And anything about elk hunting is when you are calling, if they don't visibly see that elk, because that's what bulls will do, they'll hang up. They when you are calling them, if they're coming in, they want to visibly be able to see what is calling back at them. So he hung up and just bombed down the mountain. Again, we did not bugle. We just cow called because that's what he wanted and that's what he was interested in. We knew he had a herd. So a lot of the times with elk hunting, the sweet spot is when they bed their bulls. I'm sorry, bed their cows, and then you start calling to them. They're like, "Oh, I already got a herd here, but I can get some, some more cows." So you can get their interest peaked as long. It's typically around that again 9, 10 a.m. window, which we figured out is when he would drop his cows, and then once we were to call to him, he'd get some interest and try to come into it. So that's what had happened Monday. And we got really close. And then, once he didn't see what he wanted to see, he bombed down and we could not catch him for the life of us. So
Yeah.
then we get back to camp, had lunch, and Johnny knew, my buddy Johnny knew I was toast. Like I had nothing in the tank. So like we did a really easy hunt, like hunting meadows, which we had a really cool experience. Like we did not contact any bulls that Monday evening. But we had an experience where we actually bumped a cow and a calf earlier. And then that evening we just sat on a meadow. And we heard this calf and the cow communicating right at sunset. So like sun's fading and you're hearing this calf meow meow meow, and then you hear the
Yeah.
cow meow meow. So that was really cool to have
So
that experience.
when you bumped them, you split them up.
Yeah.
They ran different directions, and
Yes.
then they were trying to find themselves, and you were able
Yeah.
to witness it. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Which
sweet.
we could have shot one of them, but obviously it was the rifle B tag is bull only.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, so you were getting your butt kicked physically.
Destroyed.
Did it take you a day to kind of acclimate to it? Did it get better throughout the course of the hunt, or was it a struggle the whole time?
So it's funny. I don't want to fast forward too much, but I felt better when I was there Saturday, Sunday, got in Monday to the camp and everything, get my ass kicked. And then Tuesday was kill day, which we'll talk about that. But then Wednesday, after the second pack out, I got my second wind, which people talk about when you're in those higher altitudes, you
Yeah.
get acclimated. And I actually like got a second wind. I was like, dude, I'm not cramping. I feel good. But that did not happen till after everything and kind of during it was.
Hmm.
I don't want to be over dramatic, but there were some situations what happened when I shot the bull that I got lost, and we can deep dive into that. But I thought I was going to die, and I got real close to God in those moments. But I'll let you ask some more questions because there's a lot to
Dive.
unpack.
Okay. Wait. Die from a physical exertion standpoint, or was this anxiety talking?
Physical. So I'll go in. We'll go and talk about the story. So Tuesday morning, um, get up, do the same routine, but we instead of going the direction we went, I can't speak of the direction, but let's just say um, we knew the bull was in this location. Instead of starting where we were originally started, we went on the back side of the mountain and
Mm,
caught him coming up. So we went opposite sides. So we let him get to where he wanted to go. We took it slow. We knew based on what he did Monday that he possibly was going to do the same thing since we didn't bust him. So he did the exact same thing. He marched his cows up to where he wanted to go. We let him go by us. Our wind was perfect. And then it was when that wind was switching up is when we started to like it was kind of a switch where it was coming down and then it was coming up. So it was kind of
hmm.
swirling a little bit. But he started I think it was around like 8 o'clock is when he started communicating with us finally, and then 9 o'clock we're closing in. He's busting hauling ass up the mountain, and then we bust a raghorn bull, and the raghorn stops at like 150 200 yards. I have the gun on 3 power, so Johnny's like, yeah, there he is, there he is, there he is. He stopped. I'm pulling up. I can't see him. I pull the gun down. I'm like, in it, some scopes are hard to, dial up. So I'm down to 10 power. And by the time I get it dialed and back up, he's busted again. He's gone.
Hmm.
So we're in like a limbo of the herd bull is calling. We just busted a raghorn, and I'm kind of like, oh God, like I'm exhausted. I am kind of down. Like that was my end. That was my only chance. Typically when you elk hunt, they say you typically get one chance or two chances, and you're really really lucky. So he's about 20 feet away from me. I have the gun in my hand, and I'm kind of down, looking down, and he, I hear him slapping his legs like this, and I look over, and he's like, "Jump, get your gun up." So I get my gun up, and I look up, and I see that amber neck and that
Hmm.
beige body, and I'm like, "Whoosh!" So I had to power on. I look at him, and Johnny goes, "Identify, make sure he's a bull. Identify, identify." So I pull up to like, and he's like right. His head is in like an evergreen. I can see the base of his neck, and then I can see the whole body. So I've got like
Yeah.
a 5 6 foot window, and I said, I do. I see horns, and then he goes to me, "Get to the tree, get to the," because I'm free handed. I don't have a
Yeah.
bipod. He says, "Get to the tree," and he's looking at me, telling me direction, and then I'm looking at the bull, and I'm looking at his mannerisms, and sometimes bulls will sit there 3 5 10 seconds just stare. So I was watching him, and when he's telling me to get to the tree, I'm like, I don't have that time. He's looking at us like he's curled looking at us because we're down the mountain, he's up on the ridge. He turns his head up and is about to step, and I just Hail Mary because he was quartering away. I Hail Mary held on the back of his ribs, quartering away shot, let it rip, prayed like, God, please let it hit his mark. And blackout. Don't see where he went. We don't. He doesn't see where he went. So I shoot and he disappears. Right? He disappears. We're down on a ridge. He's up on the ridge. Johnny's like, all right, I'm gonna stay here, and you look at me through your binos, and I'll give you direction to where we last saw him. So like I'm like doubts creeping in, like, what did I just do? In Johnny's mind, he's telling me this story. Like, dude, you just shot at a bull 160 yards free handed. And he was kind of like annoyed and frustrated because he was like, dude, we're going to be tracking a freaking bull gut shot for miles. What have
Hmm.
you done? So in my mind, I'm thinking that if I hit high, I spined him and maybe he's over dead, or I'm about to put another bullet in him, or quartering away shot, I got a good chance of hitting some good stuff. So I'm going up the ridge and I'm looking exactly where he's at. I look down, Johnny's got an orange hat on. I look at him and I look around for blood. And this is like happening within like 15, 20 seconds. I'm looking around, and then like just doubt is creeping. Like, what did you just do? And then all of a sudden, I turn my head to the right, 30 yards. He's dead as a doornail against a tree, and I freaking lost it. I had my GoPro. I forgot to turn my GoPro on to get the experience because everything I didn't care about the footage as far as
Yeah.
shooting the animal, but like I wanted to the whole the YouTube video is just the documentation of my first out of state hunt. But um, I bawled like a freaking baby because
Not a boy.
it took everything in me, and then that animal, like, just respect to elk and God's creation. Those animals are massive and they move like they are
Hmm.
cheetahs.
Yeah.
So um, got him quartered up. So we shot him at 10 o'clock. We got him quartered up by 2 p.m. So here's the hairy situation of where I thought I was gonna die.
Okay.
So I have hunt stand. I use hunt stand deer hunting to look up property ownerships, but I really don't dig into the nitty gritty. I've had Onyx, and my buddy Jacob will laugh at me like he's always been, dude, you got to get Onyx. And I had the basic
Hmm.
Onyx to where I would just be piddling around with it. So my buddy's like, hey, you need to download while we're quartering it up. He's like, you need to download Onyx Elite. So I was able to pin cant, and so I really did not know much about Onyx. So he's like, here, hold this button down. It orients you. So whenever you move your phone, you'll be able to tell you are. So here's camp. So it's pouring down rain. It's maybe 50 degrees at this point. He's like, dude, we got to get back to camp fast. Temps are dropping, and it's supposed to snow tonight. And so Johnny is his family's just fit, they're mountain goats.
Hmm.
So he's like, dude, you got to keep up with me. He's like, I'm not going to stop for you because it was a dire situation of like, so I had a rain jacket that I bought, a First Light rain jacket, which saved my life, but I did not have waterproof pants. And his rain jacket was, I think it was so old, it was rain was getting through. So he's like, dude, we're gonna get, we could get hypothermic. We got to move. So he's
Yeah.
like, dude, keep up with me. So 20 minutes, I'm following him, right? 20, 30 yards behind him, following him, following him, following him. We're a mile away from camp. I have it on my phone. I think I'm looking at the phone, trying to figure out the kind of little orientations, and I turn the tracker on, and then I look up, and he's gone.
Yeah.
He's gone. And when you're lost in an environment you don't know, like you can drop me in North Carolina, I could figure out how to get back. But in the
Hmm.
mountains of Idaho, everything looked the same. So I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, Johnny, I'm getting lost. Come back. Like I am like freaking out, panic. And I look at my phone, I have 30% battery life. I look at my pack, my clothes are soaked. I had this watertight, waterproof bag that I bought. I had a power bank in there and an extra headlamp. And guess what I did? I took it out of my bag and left it in my tent. So I had no source to, and I had like an emergency lighter. I had nothing to help me in a situation where I got lost to
So
save
no
me.
artificial light.
No artificial light, just my phone dying at 30%.
Yeah.
It's now maybe 4 o'clock. It gets darker around I think 6. So I've got 2 hours to get to camp. Um, Luckily, I had signal. I texted them lost. So this is a 2 hour window of me getting lost. I get lost twice. So I
Mm.
remember him telling me if you hit the drainage, you see water, you follow that water, and it's going to take you to camp. So
Mm.
I found that water, and that first day, like I remember, we hit two wallows. We hit a bunch of like, I can't remember what this bush was, but I found a bunch of. I'm really good at when I see something, I can take a good memory and pictures of it and think about it.
Mm.
So I'm going through this area. I'm like, dude, I'm on the right path. So I'm following the drainage. I'm like, all I gotta do is follow this, and so I look at my app, right, and I'm 700 yards away from camp. 700 yards. It feels like you should like that's easy, right? But 700 yards in the mountains of Idaho is insane. It might as well be a mile.
Hmm.
So the drainage peters out. There's no water, and I freak out and I start. I didn't know I was doing circles, so this is the second time I'm lost, and I'm praying to God, like, please get me back to my family. So now I'm at 20% lights. No, it's probably 5 o'clock by the time I got lost the second time. So I look at my Onyx app, and I've done 3 circles to where I'm like looking up and like just pissed off, like walking, and then I'm trying to find the drainage, and I'm going left and I'm going right, and I look at my Onyx. I've done 3 circles, and now 700 yards has turned into like 900. So
Hmm.
then I calm down, compose myself, and I'm like, all right, Joe, lock in. You got 20% battery life left. It is like probably 40 degrees, pouring rain. And to figure out to get my phone to stay open, like just think of pouring rain and trying to key in your 6 digit code on your iPhone, and then trying to get the screen and move around so orient. So I sacrificed getting wet. I unzipped my rain jacket and dried it off, and then locked my phone and oriented to where Onyx would stay on my phone. So I kept that up and watching my tracker just to because I couldn't figure out how to orient the stupid app, how to figure out.
Mm.
You could tell north, east, south, west, but I couldn't. I just in when you're panicking, you don't think straight. So I couldn't
Right.
figure out how to orient to where it would just point my phone to where camp was. So I couldn't figure that out. So I was looking at my tracker and trying to figure out, okay, now I'm going. I need to stay straight. I need to stay straight. So when I texted my buddy at 4 o'clock, I think he got the text message later, say it's like 5 o'clock. He's like, all right, so I'm gonna go out of camp, and every 50 yards I'm gonna start hooping and hollering. So I think he got to 100 yards, and I finally heard him hoop, and I got back, and this is lights fading. So I had a shoulder and a back strap. Don't know how much, 70, 80 pounds, let's say 70 on the lighter side. He's got a ham, probably 80 pounds solid. We get to camp. He's like, dude, we got to get this camp. We can't keep the meat around us because of bears and predators, whatever. So he's like, we got to hike it back up to main trail. So we hiked up a half a mile up, and we got it up into a tall evergreen. Luckily, wedged it up, and then we literally, when I say sprint, because we were both visibly shivering at this point, and we were probably
Mm.
mildly hypothermic. Like he's like, dude, we got to get to camp fast. It's pitch black, and we're sprinting down to camp, half a mile down. So we get to camp, and before we get in our tents, he's like, "Dude, you cannot get any water in your tent. It's gonna get to 25 degrees tonight and snow." So he's like, and luckily, so all my clothes in my pack were drenched. I bought two pairs of pants, I think two base layers, a puffer jacket, and then this really, really heavy light first light jacket that everyone told me it's you're not going to need it. It's too heavy. You're going to need that in like 20 degrees below kind of situation. So I left that in the tent, and that actually ended up being my saving grace. I had one pair of pants that were dry and that jacket. So I, again, it's pouring rain, got completely naked, jumped into that pair of pants and got my sleeping bag. And I was literally, I've never been that cold in my life. Like I've been in, it doesn't get cold in North Carolina. I've probably been the coldest 10 degrees, but like being bone wet and that cold, like being mildly hypothermic was dangerous. Like I could not stop shivering. So he's I'll let you ask some questions because I'm going a million miles an hour because I'm just reliving the experience.
No, dude, I love it.
Yeah,
That's the truth right there.
yeah,
Like I've I've I have never been extremely cold in a mountain setting. Um, I have been extremely cold in South Dakota, where the I think a lot of it had to do with thermals, and I was camping in a low spot, so all the cold when the sun went down,
yeah,
everything just sucked right back into this
yeah,
bottom
yeah,
part. And there was like a night where it was, and my sleeping bag was rated for 20 degrees,
mm,
and it got down to like 14 degrees. And
mm,
I was wearing my puffy jacket. I was wearing all of these things.
yeah,
And I had uh, I had a couple other, like I probably had the wrong sleeping pad and things like that. And I'd fall asleep, but then I'd wake up cold, and then I'd have to like shake myself to fall
yeah,
back asleep again. And get like, there was one time where I had to boil, like I warmed some water up, some hot
hmm,
water, and I drank it to try
yeah.
to stay warm again. But eventually I made it through that night, but nothing where wetness has ever been involved. So
It was scary, man.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think if not to be over dramatic, if I got lost, my phone was dead, I had no light, it could have and it snowed that night. So that's the thing. I'll continue with the story, and you can ask more questions. So we're in our tents. It's pitch black. It's 6:30. I'm cold. He's all right, but like I'm like it's still shaking. I We had made a freeze dried meal before we got in our tents, and like I literally have it in between my body, just warming my
yeah.
body up.
Oh yeah.
Um, so he's talking to like we get the weather up. He's like, dude, it's getting on 25, and we're gonna get we can get possibly 3 inches of snow. And he said, and he's in Idaho. When that first snow hits, it can be a 1 inch, 2 inch, or it can be a foot. So he
Yeah.
tells me that, and he's like, "So, dude, do you want to stick it out, and then we just pack everything out tomorrow, or do you want to leave camp, get the meat we have, head back home, and then regroup?" And I said, "Let's get the hell out of here." So, which was actually this wasn't the hardest part, but it was mentally still tough because again, so when I got lost, I was cramping. My so whenever with my sickle cell trait and my bad cramps in college, I have had my entire body lock up to where they had to stretcher me and dump me into an ice pool. So like I kind of know my body of like when to push it and when to not. So my arms were starting to cramp. I have a video when I got back home to his house, but like my abs were starting to lock up. My hamstrings were starting to cramp. So I was like, if I got lost and my body locked up, I'm screwed. So that was in the back of my mind when I was getting lost. Like, don't go too fast, but like just pace yourself when I was getting lost. So when we decide to leave camp, again, it's pitch black. We get half a mile back up to the main trail, lug everything back on our back. So I have again the shoulder in the back strap. He's got the ham. He's got a dirt bike, and he's like he has no fear. He's from there. He's so these trails up there are a foot and a half, it's 2 feet wide, right? And you're going up and down. Easier to go back than coming in, obviously, with the elevation drop, slightly drop. So I lose him. He's on the dirt bike. I have a e-bike. But the thing about this e-bike going in, which also sucked, it started malfunctioning. So every time I needed to go uphill, it wouldn't go. It still did, it never really had enough power to get up these hills, so I had to pedal really hard and use the it had I think the power it had was 5. The highest power I had was 5. So I going into the elk hunt, I had to pedal as hard as I could to get up hills. So let's go back to leaving. So it malfunctioned. So I had to walk back this heavy mountain bike with 70 pounds on my back, going up and down these mountains because it stopped working. And then every time we go down, like it had a light on it, so it's again pitch black. I could coast pretty fast, but then I did like you'd hit, there'd be rocks in between, there'd be fallen trees. So like it was at one point I had to carry everything over a couple logs. So we got back by I think we got to the main trail again at 10 p.m., got home by 11.
Yeah.
Um, so the game plan was, and I'll let you ask some more questions, was he had some buddies that might be able to help us out
Yeah.
packing the animal because we had the head left, we had about 40 pounds of scrap meat, and we had another ham and a shoulder. So when we get back, and I'm like, thank the Lord I'm home. Like, so everything was cramping. I have a video like my hands were like stuck like this, and I have to push them out to get them to release. But so killed on day 2, amazing experience. Would trade it for the world. Almost died in a dramatic fashion, but not so dramatic because I made it. Obviously, I think I was a little over dramatic, but things could have gone south. And if you don't have the
Yeah.
correct gear, if you don't have a if you don't have savviness to understanding technology, if you don't have the correct equipment, you it can take mountain can take you out.
Oh, dude. And I can remember some of the first elk hunts I've been on where I thought I had enough water and I did not have enough water. And so then by the end of the day, I'm hiking back to camp where I have like, more water. I can't like every step was just kind of a struggle. And in
Hmm.
your mind, you're like, I have to at some of these points I had to physically talk to myself like, you gotta fucking keep going, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's a
you
mental.
know,
It's a mental.
yeah,
Um, it's all mental at that point.
yep, exactly. And so you still had after that, you still had all this additional meat to get out
And camp.
and camp, right?
Yeah,
So, like, I mean, I kind of want to get into the second year, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
think what
yeah.
we're gonna have to do is do like a part two of this.
Yeah, part 2 is
But
really good. Part 2 is really
yeah,
good.
so let's just finish it up with getting the meat out here, and then we'll start part two another time. But what's the what's the scenario with getting out? Because I mean, it sounded like it was a nightmare even getting out, but then it was going to snow, which makes shit even more difficult.
Yeah.
What's the deal with getting the rest of the meat out?
So we get up at first, like 3 inches of snow on the ground. It's maybe 25, 30 degrees, not too bad. All of his buddies that were around our age in their, 30s could not, couldn't had to watch their daughter, watch the kids, had to go into work, do this. We couldn't get anybody to help us. So we had these two strapping young men, a 70-year-old retired Marine and his mentor that, has pretty much helped him out when he moved out there. His name is Dennis, 75 years old. So we drive up to the trailhead.
So wait a second. Wait a second.
Yes, our
So
chief
you
pack.
recruited a 70 and a 75-year-old to help you pack out meat?
Yeah.
Right.
No, but
I'll tell you this right now. Those two dudes are already tougher than I am, I bet.
no, they were ahead of me the whole time.
Right. Right.
All right, so we get them, and we get to camp. So we couldn't. Johnny didn't want to take the dirt bike because it was too risky as far as how steep it was, the snow.
Mhm.
It could have been a dangerous situation falling off the mountain. So he takes the e-bike, and Dennis has this cart. It's a meat. I've never heard of it. You have like deer carts, right? But this,
Right.
it's called a meat cart. It's triangular. Trying to think. It's got one wheel. It's got handles like a wheelbarrow, and it's got handles out in the front that you put on once you get all your weight. So you got
Right.
handles in the front, handles in the back. So they were like, "We're gonna take this in. It's like 20 pounds," and I'm like, "Nope, you're not taking it. I'm taking." I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not letting these guys outdo me. So we were walking. Johnny's on the e-bike, so we're walking the 4 miles up the elevation with this 20-pound car. Like literally, it's like a pretty much what do you call this? A shoulder shrug. I'm shoulder shrugging this 20, 30 pound cart,
Like a
metal.
rickshaw.
Yeah, all the way for
Yeah.
4.5 miles. So like we're stopping here and there. So this is how fast Johnny is. He bikes 4 miles to the top of where we stopped our put our bikes and stuff. He bombs a half mile down the camp, eats breakfast, bombs another mile down to the elk, gets a cam, the heaviest piece, gets back up to the main trail and beats us there and literally waiting for us.
Yeah.
So that he's just an animal. So we get there. Dennis has somewhere to go. So he maybe takes 20 pounds of camp and takes the e-bike back. So me and the 70-year-old retired Marine and Johnny go down. Johnny has already got a ham. So I Johnny takes a shoulder because I'm still I don't want to say the words. I'm still being a weenie. So
Yeah.
so it comes to the head, which I would say 40, maybe 30 pounds, and the scrap meat, all the rib meat, neck meat, everything we could get off the bone was probably 50 pounds. And Wayne, so Wayne's the 70-year-old retired Marine. He's like, I'll take the scrap meat. And I was like, dude, that's 20 pounds heavy. He's like, nope. He would not trade the heavier pack. Wouldn't.
Yeah.
Refused. So I got the head and I catch my second wind. We get up to camp, we pack the rest of it, and then we get back up to main trail. And I kid you not, it's probably 300 pounds. So we have a ham, we have a quarter, we have the head, we have the scrap meat, and we have all of our camp, which is probably 70 pounds each in our pack. So we have that all piled on this meat cart with all the meat, and you have to go 4 miles back to the truck.
Mhm.
And I think so. Let me just think about it. We started at 8 a.m. We didn't get back to the truck till 7 p.m. So I mean, it was brutal. I'd be on the front. The two guys would have on the front end. So I'd be in the back with the brakes. Two guys would be on the front, one hand and one with the other, and then we just rotate like every 10, 15 minutes. We'd rotate and we'd brake. That was really, really hard. But I got my second win. I didn't cramp at all that day. So again, we got back at 7, hung up the meat. Again, I killed on Tuesday. We packed out everything Wednesday night, and then Thursday we processed everything. Dennis, again, child Dennis, 7-year old retiree, like, literally helped me break down the animal because in North Carolina or most states you can't bring any bones back to. So everything had to be deboned with the
Mhm.
skull. I had to boil get all the brain matter out because you can't bring brain matter because of CWD laws and all that. So
Yep.
we get all that done on Thursday, and then Friday he takes me back to Boise, and I got a rental, and I had a giant 120 quart cooler and full of deboned shoulder and ham meat, which I gave a quarter. I actually gave a quarter to Dennis and Wayne just because they helped me. Like typically when you pack out and out west, if someone's helping you, you typically give them some meat. So I gave them a whole
Tip them and meat. Yep.
yeah. So I gave
Perfect.
him a whole shoulder, and I sent him a thank you card and some gift cards around Christmas. But so I drive from Boise, Idaho, all the way to North Carolina Friday through Monday by myself, which I'm used to driving. Most I've driven is probably 10, 12 hours, but this was again, I went to Wyoming. I think I stayed twice. So I stayed in Wyoming, Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then I don't know if you know Tyler Terry. You might have done a podcast with Tyler Terry. He's from is that in Missouri?
Okay.
So,
I'm
anyways,
not 100% sure. I
so
forget.
I Instagram friend, never met him before. He lets me stay in his house in Missouri, and so I stopped in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then stopped in Missouri overnight, and then drove all the way from Missouri to North Carolina. So Friday through Monday, it took me to
Yeah.
get back.
Yeah.
There it
That's a
is.
long ass drive, dude.
Yeah,
That's a long ass drive.
yeah.
When we went out the first time we went out to Idaho, we drove out and we got in the car at like noon on noon or something like that on a Friday, and then we drove all like 12 straight hours
Mm.
to midnight, and then another 8 hours. So it was like 18, 19 hours from where I live, where my buddy picked me up, to uh, Idaho, where we bought the tags and all that stuff, and then got into the mountains. straight driving, no acclimation, walked up the hill, the dumbest thing I've ever done. And I have learned my lesson where now I come in 24 hours early and I just spend 24 hours acclimating. Because that's how my body just feels better. But dude, what a killer story. You didn't die, and now you can tell that shit to your grandkids. And dude, granddad was crazy, man. He was crazy, you know? And so, um, yeah, exactly. And so that's where, before we stop this, I want us, yeah, that's, I can see you. Um, what I want is I want to talk a little bit, or just briefly, during that drive. That's a lot of time. Can you hear me? So that's like multiple days in a vehicle driving back, a lot of time to think about the experience that you just went through. I'm guessing you thought about that hunt quite a bit, and maybe even what you thought you could have done different or better for next time to not almost die,
Yeah.
or have a better experience. What was your thoughts?
So let me tell you, so when I was lost, cursing at everything under the sun, and just wanting to get back to my family, I said, I literally talking to myself, getting lost, like, I'm never doing this again. Why, Joe? Why the hell did you put yourself in this situation? You're stupid. After packing out the animal, didn't have to pack out. Like I said, I told myself, dude, you're gonna do this every year. You're
Yeah.
literally gonna. So it immediately when I got home, I told my wife, my wife's like, I got to do this again, and she's like, hell no.
You should have never told her, dude. You should have never told her the bad
Yeah.
parts about it.
Yeah, no, 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 no. I think it's from financially, kids, her wanting
Oh,
to
yeah.
strangle 3 kids, by herself.
Yep,
But
yep.
she let me do it again. But just hindsight, it changed me as a man, my relationship with God. I had some health complications when I came back. So I had high blood pressure. I've had 2 knee surgeries in my knee. Like, I didn't talk about that. Like, if I hadn't had a cortisone shot, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did. So that cortisone shot I took, I think 6 to a month prior to going to Idaho, and then it wore off.
Yeah.
And like, dude, my knee was killing me. So eating better. Like, I still have stumble there with eating healthier, but it just changed my perspective of how I show up for my family from a health perspective and being the best version of me. Like, when I was 239 pounds and I get home from work, my kids want to, kick the ball in the backyard. They want to play baseball. They want to ride bikes. They want to, dad, chase me. And you know what I want to do?
Mhm.
I want to, you feel it. You want to sit your ass down and,
Mhm.
I'm not a heavy drinker. Like, I don't have beer in my fridge, but like, I will probably have a drink every month or two. But like, during the holidays and I work in retail management, I probably have 2 or 3 beverages a week. But like,
Yeah.
it was like, I got to show up better for my wife, my kids, and just be a little bit more intentional.
Yep.
A lot of things are put in perspective in that trip of being there for my family, being healthy, being the best version of me. Like, if I'm not fit, if I'm not healthy, if I don't feel good, I can't show up for my kids. So I am obsessed with elk hunting now. Hey,
Mhm.
I know we're gonna go into round two. So we decided, my wife decided,
Mhm.
we decided, like, I'm gonna go there for bow season, which we'll get into the nitty gritty of that. But I knew I needed to be fit, a lot fitter than when I was.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
had that plan to get as fit as possible. When I left for Idaho, I was 225 pounds. When I got back, I was 210.
Woo!
Yeah. And that was of 7 days.
Yeah.
So I knew the weight I needed to be for the next year in bow season. I knew it was going to be a lot hotter because I shot that bull 160 yards, and I want to be within 50 yards of that elk. So to get
Mhm.
to elk, I know it depends on the terrain, but I'm telling you guys, the rookies, I'm still a rookie. For you to be able to keep up with elk, and I don't want to deter anyone, but you have to be the best version of you, fit
Yep.
to chase them.
Yep.
If you're going to bow hunt, you have to be fit. And then I know we're going to round two, but then I wanted to learn everything I could about elk. So for that entire year, my family got sick of the elk. Like, YouTube was elk videos were up. I think every day,
Right.
and I had an hour commute every day. I listened to. Sorry, Dan, I kind of had to drop listen to deer hunting. But
No!
no,
Traitor, dude.
I am not lying. I had an hour commute one way. I
Yep.
listened to a elk podcast, how to learn elk behavior, how to communicate to elk, how to locate elk, how to use onX. Every
Mhm.
day for a year, I was all in on elk hunting. So
Yeah.
um, it's
Love it.
incredible. I'm hooked. I wish I
Love it.
would have found this. I'm 37, came to 38 in April. I wish I would have found this love at 22, 23 out
Oh,
of college.
exactly. Exactly.
Now I got a bum
Exactly.
knee.
Exactly. Well, dude, I'm the one that has to have a knee replacement surgery in March. So, yeah,
Man,
dude. So there's no
that
Western
sucks.
shit for me this year,
No, that
unfortunately.
so Dan, I don't know who you are. You're probably around my oldest brother's age. You're probably around 43, 44.
45.
Um,
Yep.
I know I'm gonna need one. It like there's like I just did a leg workout today and my knee is throbbing. So I'm like, I'm
Yep.
37. By 50 at the latest, I'm gonna need a knee replacement. But the good thing about it, I mean, obviously they've come a long way. Like my buddy
Mhm.
that's I went out with, he's the same age as me. He knows several guys that have had knee replacements, and then they hunt just like normal. I think one guy's had two double knee replacements, and he's still
Yep.
getting after it. So there's still hope. There's still hope for
Yep.
old guys.
The old guys. Yep. Absolutely. All right. So we gotta finish up this 2 season story and how you transition into a different same species different weapon and how you prepped for all that and get into the details of that, but we're going to do that on another episode. So Joseph, man, really appreciate you taking time out of your day to hop on, tell your story, and hopefully it sheds a little light on what some other future elk hunters want to do when they decide to go out west. So good vibes, everybody. Joseph, thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yep. Thanks for having me on.